Okay, let's get into this. $16.6 billion.
That's apparently what cybercrime cost the U.S. last year alone.
Yeah, it's a staggering figure, and what's really striking is that it represents a huge jump, like over 33% from the previous year.
A 33% jump. Wow. You hear numbers like that and it really makes you pause. We're doing this deep dive based on some recent analysis looking at this FBI data, right?
Exactly. It draws from the information gathered by the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, the IC3, and they received, get this, almost 860,000 complaints last year.
860,000. That's just hard to wrap your head around.
And of those, over 250,000 people reported actually losing money.
Okay, so what's the damage per person on average for those who lost money?
Well, the average loss per complaint, where there was a financial loss reported, came out to about $19,372.
$19,000. That's life-altering money for a lot of people and businesses.
Absolutely. It's a serious blow. And the analysis suggests, I think you hinted at this, that even these huge numbers are probably, well, lowballing it.
That's a really crucial point to understand. This data, it's based on reported incidents, things people actually told law enforcement about, either directly or through the IC3 portal.
Right. So many cases must just fly under the radar. People might be embarrassed, or maybe they don't know who to report it to, or they think it won't help.
Precisely. There are all sorts of reasons why crimes go unreported. So that $16.6 billion, while it is a record based on reports, the true economic damage across the country, it's almost certainly far, far higher.
It's scary stuff. And, losses like these really highlight why robust security is just non-negotiable these days. Which actually brings us to our sponsor, Stonefly.
Good point.
Stonefly is a leader in enterprise storage, backup, and disaster recovery, AI storage, and cloud solutions. If you're looking for secure, ransomware-proof storage, and we'll probably talk more about ransomware, Stonefly sells air-gapped and immutable storage options. You can contact sales at stonefly.com to schedule a demo.
Essential tools in today's environment.
Definitely. Okay, so let's broaden the view a bit. This analysis didn't just look at last year, did it? It covered a longer period.
That's right. It looked at the last 5 years. And over that time, the IC3 logged 4.2 million complaints.
4.2 million.
And those complaints were linked to total reported losses of $50.5 billion.
$50 billion in 5 years, just the reported part.
Yeah, it averages out to something like 836,000 complaints per year over that period. But what's really telling is the trend, the acceleration.
Right. I saw something about that. Like in the early days of the IC3, they were getting maybe, 2,000 complaints a month?
Around that, yeah, early 2000s.
And now, we're talking over 2,000 complaints per day.
Per day, it's just exploded. It shows how pervasive this has become.
What's driving that, you think? Is it just more crime or better reporting or...
It's likely a mix, but the FBI's assessment pointed towards fraud being the biggest chunk of those reported losses in 2024. Just outright scams and deception.
Okay, that makes sense. Investment scams, romance scams, things like that.
All of the above. But ransomware is still a huge piece of the puzzle, It didn't go away.
No, definitely not, especially for, critical infrastructure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hospitals, schools.
Exactly. Ransomware complaints actually increased by 9% compared to 2023. So attackers are still very active there, locking up systems, demanding payment. It's a major, major threat.
And something else that really stood out in the analysis was the impact on older people.
Yes, that's a particularly sobering part of this. Individuals over 60 were hit really hard.
How hard? What were the numbers there?
Well, that group filed over 147,000 complaints last year. And the reported financial losses tied to those complaints, roughly $4.8 billion.
$4.8 billion just from people over 60.
Just from that demographic, yeah. They're often specifically targeted, with tech support scams, grandparent scams, investment fraud. It's just heartbreaking. You think about life savings being wiped out.
It really puts a human cost on these massive figures. It's not just abstract billions.
Not at all.
So, back to the data itself. We keep saying reported losses. Let's dig into why that's such an important qualifier, the limitations.
Right. The analysis is very clear about this. These numbers are only what law enforcement knows about through official reporting channels.
And lots of stuff just doesn't get reported. We talked about embarrassment, maybe lack of awareness.
Exactly. And think about ransomware, for example. The reported losses there often just reflect the actual ransom paid if it was paid and reported.
Ah, okay. But that doesn't include all the other costs, does it?
Not usually, no. It doesn't capture the cost of lost business while systems are down, the time and wages spent on recovery, maybe replacing damaged equipment, the cost of hiring third-party experts to fix things.
So the actual financial impact of a single ransomware attack could be way higher than just the ransom figure that might make it into these stats.
Significantly higher.
Mm.
And the analysis also mentioned that some companies, some entities, they don't report any loss amount to the FBI, even if they report the incident itself.
Why would they do that?
Could be lots of reasons. Maybe legal concerns, reputational damage control, maybe the exact figure is hard to calculate quickly. But the effect is it artificially lowers the overall reported loss figures,
So the already huge numbers are definitely missing significant costs.
without a doubt.
Hmm.
Plus, this data primarily comes from the IC3 online portal. It doesn't necessarily include every single cyber incident reported directly to, say, an FBI field office or an agent working a case.
So multiple layers of potential underreporting built into the system.
That seems to be the reality, yes.
Man. And the criminals are always evolving their tactics too, right? I saw a mention of scammers pretending to be from the IC3.
Yeah, that was in a related public service announcement. Scammers actually calling up previous fraud victims, claiming to be from the IC3, and saying they can help recover the lost money. For a fee, of course.
Oh, that's low. Targeting people who've already been victimized.
It shows how adaptable they are. And there were other things bubbling up around the same time, just quick headlines, A data leak involving Blue Shield of California and Google.
Right, I think I saw that.
Microsoft fixing some remote desktop freezing issues. Ripple's XRP library getting hacked. Some Android malware targeting the Russian military. WhatsApp adding new privacy features.
Okay, so the landscape is constantly shifting. New threats, new defenses.
Always. And CISA, the cybersecurity agency, put out a warning about something called fast flux DNS, which is basically a technique criminals use to hide their infrastructure better.
It just never stops. Which, again, underlines the need for really solid security and recovery plans. And speaking of which, let's mention our sponsor, Stonefly, one more time.
Makes sense.
As we see how sophisticated and costly cybercrime is getting, has those robust measures is critical. Stonefly is a leader in enterprise storage, backup and disaster recovery, AI storage, and cloud solutions. They offer secure, ransomware-proof storage with air-gapped and immutable options, things designed to protect you even if the worst happens. For a demo, you can contact sales@stonefly.com.
Good solutions to consider, definitely.
Okay, so wrapping this up, the main takeaway seems pretty stark. Cybercrime is, well, rampant in the U.S., and it's getting more expensive. That $16.6 billion reported loss in 2024 is a record.
It is. And we've spent a lot of time highlighting why that record number, as bad as it is almost certainly an underestimate of the true economic and societal cost.
Because of all the unreported incidents, the indirect costs.
Exactly. Fraud schemes are massive, ransomware is persistent, business email compromise continues to trick companies out of millions.
And we have to remember the specific impact on vulnerable groups, like we discussed with older Americans losing billions.
Absolutely critical to keep that in focus.
So maybe here's something to leave our listeners thinking about. Given everything we've said about the scale of unreported cybercrime, what are the ripple effects? What are the broader impacts on society, on the economy, on just trust maybe? Things that we aren't fully grasping because we can't even measure them properly yet?
That's a powerful question. Beyond the dollars and cents directly lost, how does this constant threat erode confidence in digital systems? Does it stifle innovation? Does it change how willing people are to bank online, shop online, connect online? What are those hidden long-term costs that go way beyond the figures in any single analysis? Something definitely worth pondering.